Welcome to Lift Your Story podcast with guest Kevin Bjorklund, mindset coach. Hi, everyone. I am Lorianne. I am that gal from Mississauga, Ontario, Canada, and I'm with.
I am that guy. I am Roy Miller from Dallas, Texas. Welcome to our Lift Your Story podcast.
In this episode, we welcome Kevin Bjorklund, and he is a mindset coach. And thank you so much for being here with us.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me on the podcast.
Yeah, welcome. So, Lorianne, just in case, so you'll know, he lives in Oklahoma, which was not too far from where I am.
Oh, great.
Yeah, about what, 8-hour drive, Kevin, something like that.
That's to Dallas. It's 4 hours from here, and then Houston's 8.
8, oh, 8, okay.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I've been to Tulsa.
It's getting cooler and cooler, so you should come up and visit.
So, Kevin, tell us a little bit about how you got into doing coaching. What led you to become a coach?
It's a great question. I have always loved people, and that's not just a platitude statement. It's like I really genuinely have always been interested in people's stories. There was a period in my life where I've always really been in ministry, and part of my journey took me all over the world. So I was employed as a creative director, media director for an organization, and that traveled all over the world. And so we were working in Egypt when the Arab Spring broke out. We were working in Iraq when the Syrian refugee crisis happened. And so, we had Syrian refugees flooding into Iraq. And so then we were there in Iraq and we were in Burma. And so after the cyclone hit in 2006, relief started happening in Burma kind of at an elevated level. And so then that made, we had contacts there. And so we were continuously working in different regions of the world to support different needs. And so my job was to interview people and learn about their story. Obviously, working for a nonprofit, you gather information, you create a story, and then that story is used to solicit emotion of other people to help to meet the needs of that region. And so part of that was really fascinating. I loved meeting people. I loved understanding what they needed. And I loved creating stories that would engage other people in making a difference for these people. But I found myself not loving the idea of being a media guy my entire life. I wanted to go deeper in that journey of helping people. And so what I realized, one of those epiphany moments where I had spent too long, probably 10 years, with this inner narrative of what I didn't want. And yet I gave very little time of what I did want. What did I want to do with my life? I knew what I knew what I didn't want, even though I was using it for good. And so I realized I had this great moment of clarity where I understood my skill set had led me to learn how to dive into people's life and hear about their story and how we can help. And if I just make a little shift and I help get to know the story that people want to tell, the story that people want to live, and I use what I've learned throughout my life of helping people and guiding people, I could do that as a coach. I could do that as a mindset coach, a life coach. I've also really been interested in systems and how to systemize creativity. So all of that lended to this desire to help people tell the story that they want to tell, not tell the story that, is currently their reality. And so, so then that really drove me to figure out what I needed to do to become a coach and launch out and start that business.
What you say is kind of like we are, we might be interviewing someone for X purpose. And then when they start telling their story, the thing away from that is really a lot more interesting than what they were talking about.
Right.
We found out that, no matter who you are, you have a story,
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the one that you think you want to tell us is not as good as the one that we kind of veer into by accident, maybe. You know what I mean?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. But when you were over in Egypt and Iraq and all that stuff broke out, how did you feel? Were you threatened? Were you worried about your safety?
I never was. I was single at the time, so that was part of the reason why I traveled so much. We had rules and restrictions for married team members. They could only be gone so many times a year for only 2 weeks at a time, just to protect family. We really had great priorities in place, protecting the things that really, all of it really matters, but family is so important, and not getting mixed up in that your mission is more important than your family. And so I was the only single guy on staff, and so I went on almost every trip. There were times that I would fly over to Southeast Asia, then fly to China, and then the team member would leave and they'd go back home, and then I'd fly to the Middle East and be in the Middle East for 2 weeks, and then I'd fly home. And so I was that super ambitious young, I say young, but 25-year-old, like, conquer the world. Nothing can harm me. When I remember there was a period of time when when I was married to my wife, that I was still traveling. And it was when the whole crisis with ISIS elevated, and we were in Erbil, which is very close to Mosul, which was ISIS's home turf, their ground that they took over and then stationed out of. And we were driving, and we were with medical doctors, and she was friends with one of the medical doctors' wives, and they called back yeah, we're so far away from Mosul. And my wife, I didn't really tell my wife that we were that close, because it really wasn't relevant. That the Kurdish army was really strong. There was just not a need to elevate fear, but she found out. And so, yeah, we were definitely in some crazy areas, but I never felt threatened. The leader, the founder of the organization that I worked for, always said, you're safer in God's will in a hostile nation than you are out of God's will in a super safe nation. And so I've always believed that. I always thought I was on a mission that I was supposed to be on, and I was protected, doing what I believed I was supposed to do. So
yeah, so you made it through, no problems, no issues.
No issues. There were times that we were in Afghanistan too, and I remember reading in the paper online that a restaurant that we frequently when we ate there, when we were visiting, was bombed by the Taliban, a couple of years later. So that was kind of weird, thinking, and I was there, I was in that spot, but never pending doom while I was over there.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. So all your experiences led you to decide that, you wanted to become a coach.
Mm-hmm.
So was there any one particular thing that was kind of I've got to do it now for you?
I think life is really interesting, because oftentimes I think we're driven to the things that scare us the most sometimes. Mindset is imperative. And I don't know if it was, upbringing, I don't know if it was environment, but looking back, I was a very insecure, there's still times that it's funny that I'm in this, because nobody is out of having to master their mindset. it's something that we all have to do, especially with the way the world is, right now, and just filtering information and making a decision on what we're going to believe about the world around us, what we're going to believe about the people around us, but also what we're going to believe about ourselves. And as I look back, I realized, so much insecurity that I had, so much doubting myself. And so I think I have an empathy for people who really want to make the most of their life, but they've been conditioned to believe that they can't, or, that it's probably not worth trying. I really find it not only valuable, but super fulfilling to help people who have these dreams and these ideas to realize those and to take action on them. Don Shula says, it's the start that stops most people. That motivates me, motivating me to help people get started, instead of trying to figure out how it's all going to happen. And so I think the thing that pushed me out the door was the period of time that I went all in studying my mentor, Bob Proctor. I discovered him randomly. And this was after I'd studied, Earl Nightingale, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, all of the greats of personal development, success, all of that. And then I found Bob, and I could not get enough of Bob Proctor. It was something connected with me in a different way than anything else. And I went all in. I hired a guy online to make me an Excel spreadsheet of every video Bob had made, and the time, when it was made, the title of the video, how long it was. And I was like, I'm going to go and do every single one of these videos. And so I started, it was like 506 videos in this list. And I just made a decision, like, I'm going to reverse engineer him. I started waking up at 4 a.m. If he would mention a mentor, I would go look up that mentor. If he would mention a book, I would go look up that book. If he said, repeat this video before you go on to another video, I would repeat the video before I'd go on to the next one. And I just started going down the list. The thing that I realized is I had never, ever hired a coach for myself. I had never, ever had somebody that I paid to hold me accountable to a goal that I had, which is why I had failed so many times. And so after 200 and some videos, something must have clicked in my mind. I need structure and I need accountability. Like, information's good. All of these videos are good, but I've been doing this for the last 10 years. I need accountability. And so I found myself on the website, and I made a decision. Bob Proctor talks about decision. In fact, it's one of the things that we, when I coach people, we talk about this at length, is the power of making a decision and what decision actually does. And I made a decision that I was going to hire a coach. I didn't know how much it was, but I was going to do it. And so I signed up on a form, put my name in, my email in, my number in, and I hit submit, and I didn't even know what I was signing up for. I was just so excited to be taking a next step for my life. Like, it changed something in me, just filling out that form, and this potential opportunity to have somebody involved in my life holding me accountable to something that I really wasn't even clear on yet. And sure enough, got the sales call. I told my wife, I was like, I signed up for something. I don't even know what it is. It's probably a sales call, but I was so excited for it. And before the call, I just made the decision, whatever it costs, I'm just going to say yes. I'm just going to make a decision. I'll figure out the money. I'll figure out the, all of that. And so that was really that pivotal moment where I realized for 10 to 15 years, I had been a consumer of information. Even the Bible says knowledge puffs up. be leery of the things we say no, that we say we know, and yet we're not getting the results of the things that we know, whether it's fitness, finances, relationships. It's like, oh yeah, I know that. And then it's like, well, your results don't prove that you know it. That's the indicator of like, I need less information, more accountability. And so that was the big shift for me. And I realized how important a coach is, someone who believes in you, but not just to encourage, but to also hold you accountable to a higher standard than what you're currently living, despite what you might already know, or maybe what you don't know. And that's the person that I wanted to be for people.
Yeah.
So it turned out that call did turn out, and you did get a great coach.
Yeah, I did. Well, there's that. It's obviously a longer story, but I did get a coach, and then it transitioned into the next thing. And one of my goals was to be mentored by Bob. I've always wanted a mentor. And so I kind of just said yes to different little opportunities that came up. And ultimately I found myself, my coach was really connected to Bob directly. And so there was a moment where he was like, you know what, you need to talk to Bob about these ideas that I had. And so he was like, I'm going to see if Bob's available. And he called up Bob, he got off the phone with me, called Bob, came back on the phone with me. Hey, Bob's available. If you don't know, or for your listeners who are listening, Bob's 87. He's been doing and studying like a scientist, personal development, success, prosperity for the last 60 years. He worked directly with Earl Nightingale, who worked directly with Napoleon Hill, who worked directly with Andrew Carnegie, the wealthiest man who, of our time at the time. And there's this legacy of success, personal development, mindset. And I wanted to be mentored by him. So now I find myself in this moment where I'm like about to be put on the phone with Bob. And I was like, just shocked for one, but also really excited, slightly nervous. And he was the most gracious man. He started drilling me questions about what I was studying. And then he realized that I was really serious about it and said, I want to give you my phone number. If you ever need anything, call me. And so there was throughout this journey of getting to where I'm at today, there's been a series of phone calls that I've made with Bob and just asked him. And so that's been maybe some of the most fulfilling surprises when it comes to setting a goal. My goal was to be mentored by him. And obviously I went through various programs, but to have the opportunity to call him, be on a one-on-one call, glean from his wisdom that he's spent the last 60 years developing. And that's been really special.
Yeah, no kidding. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You mentioned you getting up at 4 o'clock. So that tells me about lead the field.
Yeah.
So I knew where that was coming from. But, you said you did all that studying and you mentioned, starting is always the issue, because I think we all tend to want to learn. Well, I need to know this. I need to know this. Well, I heard about this, and we spend all this time, like you say, studying, but then we just fail to start that step to move forward.
Yeah.
And what you did, you said, okay, this is what I need to do. I got to do this. And so, I can see where you made the decision and then you followed the steps.
Mm-hmm.
And then it led you to getting that coaching.
Exactly. But you think about it, examples that we use all the time are the Wright brothers. They didn't know how to fly when they made a decision that they were going to figure out how to fly. The only way to get that plane in the air was to try and try again and try again and try again. And if they would have waited until they knew how, it never would have happened, because they never could have discovered how. Same thing with, Jeff Bezos is a great example. Whether or not, people love the model, or, especially people in small towns and all these ideas about it, he had a vision to create a company that would sell everything online. And then continued to push the limits. What if we could do it in 2 days? What if we could sell anything and deliver it in 2 days? And then what if we could do it in 1 day? Like, and the impossibility keeps like shrinking, until all these wild ideas are becoming possible. Yet that's every one of us. All of us have that opportunity for our life. But so many people don't start because they don't even start getting a vision for their life. Like, those guys would have a vision, or girls, Sarah Blakely's a great example. The youngest female entrepreneur billionaire, who owns the company outright. Like, she never got investors, any of that. That's a vision. And if you go and interview them, they'll all say the same thing. I had no idea how it would happen. I just took the first step. John Maxwell's another guy. He talks about, it's like being in a parking lot at night and turning on your lights and wanting your lights to illuminate the whole path home before you start driving. It doesn't work like that. Your head beam, like the beams of light, they only go so far. And the only way to get them further down the road is to drive the car with the amount of light that you've got exposing the road that you're going on. And so that's like life. But because we don't know how to do the things that we really would love to do, start a company, write a book, sing an album or play on an album, or, paint a masterpiece or whatever it is, those are all creative things. But, become a doctor, because the process seems so out of reach for us, the temptation is to not start and to get more information.
That's part, I would imagine, of our limiting beliefs. I mean, don't ever feel good enough to start, or, or too fearful of starting because we might fail, or all of those things, or, I'm not good enough. And how could I possibly, like doctors, right. Biology, I'm not good at science. So not if you don't try, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think there's so many false beliefs around this idea that you can do whatever it is that you want to do. Like, people take those statements and, I was talking to a guy and he was like, so I could be in the NBA. And I was like, do you want to be in the NBA? Like, are you out playing basketball every day? Like, the answer is no. And so I think it is about being true to yourself and really knowing yourself and what is it that you love. For so many people it starts small, in the sense of like, I want to provide for my family. For me, part of the dream is providing a lifestyle for my family that I didn't have. And I think that's the way it is for a lot of people. And that's noble. I think that's really good. I think that's a good goal. I think it has to become clearer and more defined because of the way our mind works, and we think in pictures in our mind. If there's a confusing picture, if we don't know what we want, it's not likely that our mind is going to come up with the answer or the process of how to move forward. And so it is really important when I coach with people, helping them articulate and define what it is that they actually want, not in a general sense, but in a very specific sense. And so that helps with getting people started. So,
do people have trouble knowing what they're good at? Do you see that? In other words, if I said, Kevin, what are you good at? You ask that to most people, they go, oh, I'm not really good at anything.
Yeah. I definitely think people have a built-in defense mechanism about praising the things that they're good at, and maybe it is just because we are wired, or it's easier to find the negatives, that people are very aware of what they're not good at, and they haven't spent time, thinking about, I actually really do thrive in this area. And yeah, I think so. There's actually there's one of my another one of my mentors, he created something called the 1 degree. And, I take people through this to discover your purpose. And because that's another one, even beyond knowing what you're good at, so many people can't even wrap their mind around that there's a specific purpose for them. It's just too big. It's too lofty. It's too dreamy to believe that I could have a purpose that I'm supposed to walk in. But he really simplified it, and he calls it your design. So what you want to do is you want to discover your design. And by doing this, it also helps you identify what you're good at. And so design is an acronym for your drivers, what drives you. And, on the scope of hundreds of activities, what are the ones that actually give you energy when you do them? So there's activities that give you energy. There's activities that you're good at that don't do anything really for you. They just kind of, you're good at them, but they don't fuel your energy. And then there's tasks that when you think about doing them, it like depletes your energy before you even start. And so those are your drivers. What you want to find is your drivers, the things, the top 3 to 5 activities that fuel your energy. And so that's your D. The E is your experiences. So many people, Tony Robbins and various prolific speakers and writers will say, life's not happening to you. Life is happening for you. Even not good circumstances. Tony Robbins he's on a mission to feed 1 billion people because he grew up lacking food. And he experienced one time where a guy came up and gave him a Thanksgiving meal, and he had an epiphany that people actually cared about other people. That moment in life was not a good time. It was an experience he had that shaped who he was. And so we all have these experiences. And if we look at our experiences negatively, it'll have a negative impact on our life. Wayne Dyer always said, if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at will change. So we can't, my takeaway on that is you can't change your past, but you can change the way you see your past. And those are experiences. And so, that's it. And it's chipping away at this. What am I good at? What's my purpose? S is skills. Like, what are the skill sets that you've developed up to this point? For me, the one that I wasn't wanting was this ability to create videos. I was like, I don't know. I don't really want to be a video guy my whole life. But a skill set that I developed that I was very good at was connecting with people and drawing out people's stories, becoming in the moment and really desiring to learn about this person that I'm sitting in front of. That helps me with coaching. So the skills that I developed that were not necessarily like holding up a camera, lighting a room, getting a good shot, it went deeper than that. And identifying that really helped me. Oh, wow, this actually empowers me in this other deeper desire that I have. And then I is your interest, things that you're just like, you gravitate towards. One of those for me is systems. I love systems. I was like the 8-year-old kid organizing my parents' pantry and desk drawers. Like, I just wanted all the pens to be adhered. There was like a spot for everything. The Campbell's soup cans and like tomato cans go here, and chicken noodle soup go here, and the cereals go here, and they go, they should go in order. There shouldn't be like 2 short ones and then 1 big one in between them. Like, I was just naturally interested in systems that created order. And so that's helped me coach people. Okay, what's the system that's going to help us get there? But I wouldn't have noticed that until I was intentional of discovering my purpose. G is your giftings. What are the things that you're naturally gifted at? I believe God gives us these gifts. And then N is your nature, like the way you're wired, the way you communicate, the way you perceive the world, your natural tendencies. And so this design helps us get a focus for our life and realize, oh, wow, like that's the direction I need to be going. And it helps me say no to all of the things that might be okay opportunities, but are going to actually drain me if I'm just pursuing financial security, if I'm just pursuing making other people happy. And so I think first, before just trying to focus on what you're good at, also to focus on discovering that design so that you can really interpret the other like things that you're good at that you may not have noticed, because you may be distracted by what you don't like, what you don't want, what you don't know, and it can prevent you. So,
Right. So how can our listeners reach out to you, Kevin?
they could go to mindsetmastery.life. And you know, the thing I recommend the most is I created a program, a framework of how to unlock your invisible superpower. Everyone is incredibly powerful and they don't recognize it sometimes. And so it's like $500 worth of value. I made it available for $7. So for people who want to unlock the power that they have on the inside of them and really use that to start pursuing the dream that's in their heart, I highly recommend that. It comes with a bunch of bonuses, and that's on mindsetmastery.life.
Okay.
Right.
Thank you so much. It's very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing.
Yeah. Really appreciate you coming on today.
Absolutely.
It's been a joy.
Thank you. All right. Take care.
Thanks, Kevin.